So as you all know, Julian Assange has been in the Ecuadorian embassy for the past, I believe, 6 years now. Over the past several months, I believe for the last 6-7 months, they've cut off all communication to the outside world, meaning he's essentially been captive inside the embassy without any capacity to get to the outside world, even keeping out Human Rights Watch from coming in to see Julian Assange. Within the last couple of weeks, maybe 3 weeks, 3 or 4 weeks, the last few weeks, they've put in what they call a special protocol. The special protocol has made his asylum contingent upon censorship. Essentially, you can't have any political speak, but we will turn on limited access to the outside world. Julian Assange has sued. In addition to the special protocol, part of the special protocol was embarrassing, humiliating circumstances like you must take better care of your cat. Now you can imagine NBC News and some of these other organizations found that just fucking hilarious, and that was the thing that they reported. And NBC going so far as to completely miss the story or mischaracterize the story, saying that Julian Assange was angry about the cat thing. Now, Julian Assange sued Ecuador. Now, the reason he sued Ecuador is because he made this argument that it is illegal for Ecuador to make his asylum contingent upon censorship, meaning this idea that his asylum is contingent upon him shutting up and not saying things in a political context was not part of the asylum issue. Was not part of, asylum. So he took them to court. Now, him taking them to court, they went to court a couple of days ago. And the trial came to a bizarre end. For all intents and purposes, they weren't the argument was that they weren't able to understand the Australian accent, even though the person who was a translator supposedly spoke English. I shit you not. The case had to be postponed for later for them to get somebody who spoke quote-unquote Australian. Let me let you hear Julian Assange speak, because there are some cases when I would listen to somebody who's Scottish and I can't fully understand what the person is saying in Scottish. I'm like, oh my God, is that person even speaking English? But I want to give you this idea of what Julian Assange sounds like. Now, if you're an American, tell me whether or not you can understand what Julian Assange is saying here.
In the American political lexicon, there's such a thing as the October surprise. The stuff that you're sitting on, is an October surprise in there? Do you even know what you're sitting on?
WikiLeaks never sits on material. Whistleblowers go to significant efforts to get us material, and often very significant risks. There's a 27-year-old who works for the DNC who was shot in the back, murdered just 2 weeks ago for unknown reasons as he was walking down the street in Washington. So
that was just a robbery, I believe, wasn't it?
No, there's no finding. So that's the sort of...
What are you suggesting?
I'm suggesting that our sources take risks, and they become concerned to see things occurring like that.
But what?
My point for that is not necessarily to bring up the Seth Rich thing. My point is to kind of make the point that as an American, I listen to him speaking Australian, the Queen's English, and he sounds perfectly normal to me and is easy to understand. I don't quite know what the translator or why the translator wasn't able to articulate what Julian Assange was saying. But Julian Assange made the point that the translator was not communicating and translating the information appropriately. In addition to there being trouble with the audio, Ecuador needs to up its game, and that's assuming that they're not dicking around with him and making this harder than it needs to be. Let's read the story. There are multiple stories on this. The first story that I read, or that I'm going to go through, is from a Spanish paper that's been translated, and then I'm going to go through an English version of this. So this is right here. Julian Assange hearing for protective action was suspended due to translation problems. The hearing to substantiate action of protection that requested the defense of Julian Assange against, some of this sounds weird because it's a translation from Spanish, but you get the gist. Requested the defense of Julian Assange against Foreign Minister Jose Valencia was suspended due to technical problems and translation. Now, when you hear problems in translation, it comes, it's like, okay, well, maybe the guy doesn't speak English. But no, when you go to the English paper, he speaks English. He's fluent in English. The first hearing in Julian Assange lawsuit against Ecuador Foreign Affairs Ministry was suspended as WikiLeaks founder was unable to understand his translator, and the judge called for a replacement fluent in Australian. There's no such thing. There's no such thing. There's just Queen's English. And yes, you can make the argument that Australians, the dialect that's on Australians. I've heard many people tell me that the American dialect is easier to understand. Fair enough. Fair enough. But come on. Come on. Speaking from the Ecuador's embassy in London via Skype, Assange said the court-appointed translation service was not good enough. Judge Karina Martinez said that it was indispensable that Assange testify and that the court had erred by appointing a translator who only spoke English. Australian is English. Apparently under the impression that Australian dialect is unintelligible to other Anglophones. That is amazing. That is utterly amazing. I read that sentence as like, what? I even read that sentence to my wife, and I was like, didn't speak Australian. All right. Assange filed a suit against Foreign Minister Jose Valencia last week, saying that the new rules being imposed on him at the London embassy violated his constitutional rights. Assange, an Ecuadorian citizen since December, could be expelled from the embassy should he fail to comply with the new rules, which says he must refrain from commenting on politics and clear any visitor with the embassy 3 days in advance. Not just that. Those rules go so far as to say that a person who's visiting Assange can have their information searched and their information handed over to other authorities. Meaning if a person goes in to visit Assange, that person could have his information handed over to the British government. The internet access here is failing, so I'm probably going to have to switch over and I'll just upload this video. Nevertheless, Assange's trial has been postponed and suspended until they can find somebody who speaks quote-unquote Australian. Because the translator apparently only spoke English. Australian is English. I'll end this here. If you guys enjoy the content, please feel free to share, like, subscribe. You can always support through Patreon. I'll upload this video at the end because I would imagine there's a lot of lagging in this. Thanks all.